The Annabelle doll case and the death of a paranormal investigator. The Annabelle doll, locked behind a glass case in the now-closed Warren Occult Museum, is one of the most infamous haunted objects in the world. But in recent years, the legend took a darker turn, one involving an unexpected death and a disturbing disappearance. The doll's story begins in the 1970s. A nursing student was gifted a Raggedy Ann doll, which soon began moving on its own, leaving notes and acting as though it had a consciousness. After terrifying activity escalated, scratches, levitations, and a failed exorcism, the doll was handed over to famed demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren. They placed it in a glass case with a warning: positively do not open. For decades, the doll remained sealed. Visitors reported strange experiences, faint growling, nausea, or the feeling of being watched. The Warrens warned that Annabelle wasn't haunted by a child spirit, but something far darker: a demon using the doll as a conduit. Fast forward to 2021. Dan Rivera, one of the caretakers of the Warren collection and a seasoned paranormal investigator, was found dead in a Pennsylvania hotel room under mysterious circumstances. He'd been on a routine visit to examine several relics from the museum, including the Annabelle case, which had been temporarily relocated due to renovations. The cause of death was labeled natural causes, but friends say Rivera had no underlying health issues. He had confided in close colleagues days before about feeling watched and having vivid nightmares of the doll walking toward him. Then came the chilling detail. When the Warren collection was being reorganized after Rivera's death, Annabelle was missing. The museum team and Lorraine Warren's surviving family denied it had been stolen. Security footage showed no signs of tampering. The glass case, still locked, stood eerily empty. Some speculated it was all a hoax, publicity perhaps. But Rivera's death cast a shadow that made even skeptics hesitate. Rumors exploded online. Sightings of a similar doll appeared in photos, videos, and alleged private collections. Spiritual mediums warned that Annabelle had never been truly contained, that the glass case was never meant to trap her, only to warn us. To this day, the real Annabelle's whereabouts remain unknown, and those who once mocked the legend now wonder, what happens when something evil is set free again? Kat Dennings' haunted house story. Long before she was a Hollywood star, Kat Dennings lived in a quiet old house in rural Pennsylvania. To outsiders, it looked like any other vintage home. 2 stories, creaky floors, drafty windows, but inside, something unseen watched from the shadows. And as Dennings would later tell it, that something didn't just linger, it saved a life. Dennings recounted the story years later on a podcast, brushing it off with humor, but the details were clear. The house had a strange presence. From the moment her family moved in, they noticed cold spots in the hallway. Lights flickered without reason. Doors creaked open even when locked. At first, they blamed the age of the house. But then came the dreams. Her mother dreamed of a man in old-fashioned clothes standing at the foot of her bed. He never moved, never spoke, just stood there watching. Kat had dreams too, of falling down the stairs, endlessly, over and over. She'd wake up breathless. But one day, that dream almost came true. It was a rainy afternoon when her mother slipped at the top of the staircase. There was no time to grab the railing, no time to break her fall. She was certain she'd tumble down, but mid-air, she stopped. Froze, just like that. She hovered, as if someone had caught her in place. Then, slowly, she was lowered down onto the next step. She sat there in shock, unharmed. Alone. There was no one else in the hallway. No one nearby. The family was downstairs. Kat described the moment as the defining memory that convinced her something was in the house, something that didn't mean them harm. She believes it was the same spirit her mother had seen in dreams. A man once tied to the home, now lingering with unfinished business, maybe lonely, maybe protective. The activity didn't stop. In fact, the family grew used to it. They even joked with him out loud. Keys that went missing would reappear hours later on the table. The doorbell would ring when no one was outside. Sometimes the stereo turned on by itself, always to classical music, even though they never played it. Years later, after they moved, Dennings said no other home felt quite like that one. It wasn't scary, she explained. It was like someone was there, just keeping an eye on us. In the world of Hollywood stories, this one stands apart. Not dramatic, not violent, but deeply unsettling. Because sometimes, the most chilling ghost stories aren't the ones where spirits torment. They're the ones where they protect you, without ever being seen. The hauntings of Kinnitty Castle, deep in the heart of Ireland, nestled at the foot of the Slieve Bloom Mountains, stands Kinnitty Castle, an imposing Gothic structure draped in ivy and centuries of whispered legends. Built in 1209, it has survived war, rebellion, and ruin. But what truly sets it apart, isn't its architecture or history. It has the spirits that never left. Today, Kinnitty operates as a luxury hotel, but its halls tell older stories. Guests report shadowy figures drifting through the corridors at night. Doors open and close without cause. Disembodied whispers echo through the stone stairwells. Some rooms are said to grow icy cold, even when the fire is burning high. One spirit, known simply as the Monk of Kinnitty, is seen most often. Described as a tall man in a brown Franciscan robe, he appears in the castle's banquet hall and old library. Unlike most phantoms, he doesn't shy away from being seen. In fact, guests claim he often appears calmly, sometimes standing behind them in mirrors, or at the end of long hallways, hands folded. He's not malevolent, but deeply unsettling. A guest once awoke to find the monk standing silently at the foot of his bed. He screamed, but he remained still for several seconds before slowly walking through the wall and vanishing. Staff later confirmed that multiple guests in that same room had reported the exact same figure in the exact same spot. But the monk isn't alone. There's also the spirit of a little girl named Harriet, believed to have died in the castle during the 19th century. Staff say her laughter can be heard near the grand staircase late at night, and some visitors swear they've seen small handprints appear on foggy mirrors or dusty windows, always at child height. In 2023, a paranormal investigator couple spent the night during a blood moon. They claimed to capture an energy mass on thermal cameras, large, shifting, and pulsing like a living thing. In one recording, a faint shape resembling a cloaked figure holding a child appeared in the old tower room. The couple left at dawn and never returned. Despite the activity, Kinnitty Castle thrives as a hotel. Some guests come specifically hoping to experience the supernatural. Others check out early, unnerved by what they've seen. Staff are polite but candid. Yes, strange things happen here. No, they won't deny it. In Ireland, stories are woven into the land. And Kinnitty Castle, with its haunted halls and patient monk, holds on to those stories like secrets in stone. The Fiddler's Pond of Mount Dora, nestled just outside the historic town of Mount Dora, Florida, lies a still body of water known simply as Fiddler's Pond. It looks ordinary, peaceful even, but locals know better. They warn that after dark, the air turns heavy around the pond, and if you listen closely, you might hear it. A slow, mournful tune played on an old fiddle, drifting across the water with no source in sight. The legend begins over a century ago, when a drifter named Elijah wandered into Mount Dora in the early 1900s. He was a quiet man who carried nothing but a battered fiddle case and the clothes on his back. He took odd jobs during the day and played haunting tunes by night, sitting on the edge of the pond alone. Though reclusive, his music captivated the town. Children gathered to listen. Couples danced nearby, but no one ever got close. Elijah didn't speak, he only played. Then, one night, Elijah vanished. Some say he was seen walking into the water, fiddle in hand, disappearing into the mist. Others claim they heard a final, violent note sharper than anything he'd ever played, and then silence. His body was never found. Within days, the pond changed. Locals reported hearing music at odd hours, even when no one was there. One woman claimed she heard weeping in the reeds. A boy said he saw a figure standing on the surface of the water, playing a fiddle that glowed faintly blue. No matter how many times they tried to investigate, no explanation surfaced. The pond had become a place of ghostly echoes. Over the years, the legend deepened. Hikers who camped nearby reported having vivid dreams of drowning, while violin music grew louder and louder. A park ranger once claimed he followed the music and saw a man in old clothes, his back turned, playing by the shore. But when he called out, the figure stopped and dissolved into the fog. Despite its eerie reputation, Fiddler's Pond remains untouched by development. Locals say the land won't allow it. Every attempt to drain, pave, or renovate the area as failed machinery breaks down. Crews quit, permits get mysteriously lost. Even skeptics admit something strange surrounds that water. Some believe Elijah's soul is trapped there, cursed to play his sorrowful tune, until someone understands the pain he poured into every note. Others say the pond is simply haunted ground feeding on loss, memory, and music. But one thing is certain. When the sun sets in Mount Dora and the wind begins to whisper, the strings of a ghostly fiddle still tremble in the night.